Hello everybody, it's David here. I wanted to talk to you today about the game Shadowrun. So my friend Jacob was very generous and he gave me a great gift this Christmas, which was Shadowrun the role-playing game, 5th edition, which is this book right here. It is a fantastic book. I've been kind of looking it over for the last few days and getting really excited about the world of Shadowrun and all the cool elements of the game and everything, and I would really like to play a game of Shadowrun with my friends. I'll game master a group hopefully in the near future and kind of show them about the world of Shadowrun. So after reading through a fair bit, I definitely haven't read the whole thing yet. It is about an inch and a half or so thick. It is a big, thick book. But like I said, I'm getting excited about it. I was kind of looking on YouTube and seeing sort of what was out there available, maybe to help teach someone how to play the game and kind of get into the world a bit. And there wasn't a whole lot. There's some playthroughs and things like that, but I wanted to do some basic intro videos to kind of help my friends who don't own the book yet kind of get into the world and understand some of the rules and just what it's all about. So that's what this video is. The first one is just kind of an introduction to the world of Shadowrun and what's going on in the world as it is. So, in the game of Shadowrun, if you don't know it all, is a cyberpunk futuristic setting where magic has returned to the world. There are great advances in technology. The internet, referred to as the Matrix, is ubiquitous and is a part of our everyday lives and is wireless access through your mind and through. So there's a lot of cool things to do with the internet, magic, cybernetic advancements and changes to your person are a big thing, where you can modify yourself through genetical like bioware or through cyberware, mechanical things that you actually you change and add to your body to make yourself kind of superhuman. So that's sort of the world of Shadowrun. It's very cool, very unique. So we'll get into some of the specifics here. Fifth edition of Shadowrun is set in I believe it's 2071 or 2072 in the future, the 21st century here. So the historians and the people who kind of study things in the world have said magic has always existed in the world, but it exists in ebbs and flows through different times of history, where magic was very prevalent or where it was basically non-existent. So the 20th century and early 21st century were one of those ebbs, where magic was basically gone from the world, or at least very looked down on, kind of shady, and didn't seem legit. That changed. In December 24th of 2011, it changed in a big way. The great dragon Rumio, I believe is how it's pronounced, flew out of Mount Fuji, and he kind of flew along a bullet train in Japan, and he kind of took a look at the passengers, and they looked at him and realized things are changing fast. So this is when magic returned to our world and things changed. So the historians have said that there have been these different ebbs and flows of magic. When we entered this flow is the sixth, however you say that, ebb or flow. So they refer to this world of Shadowrun where we are, in the game, as the sixth world, as that sixth change in magic. Around that same time that the dragons returned and flew out of the mountain and everything started changing, they had an event they called the unexplained genetic expression. This is when human babies babies also started being born as elves and as dwarves, sort of different versions of humanity. This is the first reappearance of these races that have existed in our times, but the magic level was so low they just appeared as basically humans or version of humans. So these babies kind of reappeared and caused a major uproar and were definitely very strange and looked down on for about 10 years or so until things got even weirder. In 2021, goblinization struck for a period of about a day to 3 days, depending on the person. Just people of all races and all parts of the world, all ages, different ones were sort of were hit with this goblinization. And it took some time. They were just racked with agony as their bodies transformed into these other creatures. And that's how the races of orcs and trolls came back into the world. So by 2021, we have the reappearance of elves, dwarves, orcs, and trolls mixed with regular humans. So this led to the term metahumanity, to sort of to allow for these other races that are now part of everyday life. Some are definitely looked on as, not more normal, but more appreciated, I suppose, or more looked down on than others. The elves definitely have higher social graces and are definitely looked upon more favorably than maybe the gruffer orcs or large hulking trolls. So now we have meta-humanity in the world. I'm referring to my notes, by the way, while we're doing this, so when I'm looking down, that's what I'm reading. So with the reappearance of magic, there also came back into the world people who could tap into that magic and use it. They referred to those people as being awakened. The people who can use magic to whatever scale that they can. Magic items also exist in the world again. Rings, cloaks, whatever, swords, whatever kind of magical items you can think of, but they maybe not function the same as magical items in in other games. To my understanding, if someone needs to be awakened or to be able to use magic in order to effectively use these magical items. It's not just to pick it up and you're as powerful as whoever, amazing warrior once wielded it. Dragons are also back in the world, not just one, but many. They're definitely very large, very dangerous. They will mess you up. They're extremely hyper intelligent and very interested in power. They're often involved in politics and largely involved in corporations and things throughout the world. Excuse me. Another big part of the sixth world is corporations. At one time, kind of governments could mostly sort of restrain corporations or put limits on them, but we've kind of gone beyond that. We've returned to sort of an older world where an older version of might makes right. You can do whatever you want to as long as you have the power to back it up and keep people from stopping you from doing that. So corporations have really taken on a life of their own, and they're sort of run things. A big step toward this came in the form of extraterritoriality. It's a term that corporations got that basically it just means whatever happens in corporate holdings, in the buildings that they own, in the lands that they own, whatever happens there is subject to the laws of the corporation and nobody else's. So a corporation that has this extraterritoriality doesn't have to answer to the police within their own holdings. It's definitely a very big coup for the corporations. They were very excited about it. They spent a lot of time fighting each other and destroying things and just being crazy in general, until they realized this really wasn't good for everybody's bottom lines. So they decided to sort of turn the destruction on other things rather than each other. A big step toward this sort of self-regulation was the corporate court. It's populated by the largest corporations in the world, the Big Ten, that really run almost everything in the sixth world, populate the corporate court, who work together to help the corporations work together, basically to stem the blood flow and help things to work sort of cooperatively, at least to help major destruction from breaking down everybody's business. All right, so the corporate court created a ranking system for corporations, just so everybody could kind of know how a corporation stands on the worldwide front. At the lowest level, you have an unranked corporation, which can be a pretty wide variety, really. It runs from the mom and pop shop down on the street, the computer repair business on the corner, Stan's Greasy Spoon Diner on 3rd Street, all the way up to very large, kind of sort of nationwide corporations can fall into this unranked heading. The first ranking of the system is a single A, which represents a multinational corporation. You have to be able to do substantive business in at least 2 countries to be ranked as a single A. The double A corporations are the next step up in the tier. You have to operate on a large scale in multiple countries, quite a number of countries throughout the world, and basically be able to handle the pressure and kind of the business pressure and the trouble you can get from the big AAA corporations. And when you achieve that AA ranking, they recognize that you're that good, and you get the extraterritoriality status. So you can control things in your own holdings. The AAA rating is reserved for the Big Ten, the 10 largest corporations in the world. So their size, power, diversity set them apart from all the other ones. They're the ones who populate the corporate court, justices from the Big Ten corporations. And really, as a Shadowrunner in this world, or really anyone in this world, you know who the Big Ten are, what they do, where they are. They basically control all the money, all the new yen, as it's referred to in the game. The money flows through these corporations. And whether you're a corporate wage slave from the lowest tier of the corporations, or even if you're a shadow runner, you usually are answering to these people for your money. That's where your paycheck comes from, whether you like it or not. So you know about the corporations. Oh, I should just mention what actually a shadow run is. There's a really cool definition on the first page of the handbook. It's just a shadow run is a noun. Means any movement, action, or series of such made in carrying out plans which are illegal or quasi-legal. So going on a shadow run is going out to do things that maybe aren't quite legal, that are working, for someone's favor and against someone else, basically, usually hired by a corporation or another interested party to get something or to get someone or to destroy something or to, there's any number of things that someone might hire you to do to give them an edge on the competition or to take out someone they don't like in a shadowy way. It's a very cool world. I'm really excited about the possibility of playing a game of Shadowrun. There's a lot of neat things that can go on and a lot of really cool gear and tech and things that you can do to yourself, which we'll cover in a later episode. In this episode, I also wanted to cover kind of the political world, what's going on around the world, what's happened to the different countries, and some of the cool places where you can set your game, neat places to run, that kind of thing. Countries are still somewhat important in the Sixth World, even though corporations are really run most things. Governments still exist, and they still define boundaries of countries. They still provide infrastructure and a sense of identity and uniformity for the people, especially the people who aren't necessarily under the umbrella of a corporation or live in corporate property, that kind of thing. They're still provided for by the government, well, in a way. But anyway, it's still important to know the countries and kind of the geopolitical tensions and things that are going on. So, cool places to run. North America is definitely a big interest because that's where I live, and that's where the big people I play this game will be living. And it's cool to see what has kind of happened to the United States and other countries in North America since the return of magic and other things. What the game did here was quite interesting. So I'll just tell you. The U.S. and Canada were broken apart in the early 21st century by powerful Native American movements. Succession movements, basically, from the Native American populations, broke the country apart. So the closest successor to the United States would be the United Canadian and American States, the UCAS or UCAS, that's made up of northeastern U.S. and southeastern Canada. Sort of up there, they're still capital of the country is in D.C., although it's spelled D-E-E-C-E-E now. D.C. And the government is still very much similar to the old U.S. style of government, and they are still quite powerful, but definitely not like before the fall of the U.S., before the succession movements in the early 21st century. But they still are important, powerful force. There are two Big Ten corporations that are headquartered in the UCAS. There's Ares in Detroit and Neonet in Boston. Those are two major powers there. Another thing about the UCAS, the city of Seattle. Seattle is really designed to be a major Shadowrunner, a great place to do runs. It is a part of the UCAS that is separated from all the rest. It was actually carved out of the Salish City Council in the Pacific Northwest. They basically took this chunk and gave it back to the UCAS. So they're really separated. And Seattle is called in the book the Shadowrunning capital of the world. All the Big Ten corporations have a presence in Seattle, as well as a lot of crime families, crime syndicates, mafia, that kind of thing. They're all involved in Seattle as well. There's other interested groups and Just a lot of cool things that you could do in the city. To the south of the United Canadian and American States is the Confederation of American States, the CAS. It's the old southeastern kind of U.S., sort of like the old South, the Confederation. There's a lot of economic activity and any kind of industry in the CAS, but they don't have any Big Ten headquarters there. They do, however, have the headquarters of Lone Star, which is the world's biggest private security firm. Kind of all the big corporations. That's one of the main organizations that they use for their private security is Lone Star. So if you're a Shadowrunner in the world, you know what Lone Star is, and you probably run into their guys before. If you're good, you've probably survived and hopefully kept out of prison after encountering them. Throughout the rest of the North America, the southwestern U.S. is now the Pueblo Corporate Council, and they hold the city of Los Angeles with the corporate headquarters of Horizon there in L.A. There's the Sioux Nation that controls most of the Central Plains region, the Salish City Council in kind of the Pacific Northwest and that area surrounding Seattle. To the south of them, kind of Northern California area, is a really interesting to me, a city called, or a country rather, called Tirtangir, I believe is how it's pronounced. It's actually a nation of elves in that area, kind of southern Oregon and northern California there. Another neat place is the Treaty City of Denver, as it is called. Denver is actually divided among 5 different countries and ruled over by a dragon. So you could do a lot of interesting things in Denver, it sounds like. A lot of struggle in that country. There's also other Native American groups that control kind of Western Canada and Northern Canada in that area. Let's see. Central America is basically just one country now. It's Aztlan, Aztlan, and Aztlan is basically run by Aztechnology. It's the Big Ten that's headquartered there in former Mexico, I believe. But they control all the territory from what was the border of Texas down to the border of Amazonia in South America is all theirs. The Panama Canal is controlled by the corporate council. And basically the entire populations of Aztlan is involved with Aztechnology. So if you're on their good side, it's a good place to be, but if you're not so nice place to be. In South America, there are quite a fair number of countries still there, but really only one big global player, which is Amazonia. And Amazonia, it's still one of the few places in the world where the government still sort of supersedes corporations. There aren't a lot of kind of Big Ten presence down there. Amazonia is ruled by the dragon Hualpa, that is very ecologically minded. And there's not, like I said, there's not a lot of corporate involvement there, but there was a recent upheaval. There was a war between Amazonia and Aztlan, which did not go well for Amazonia. So it's a good chance for corporations to kind of get their claws in Amazonia a little bit. And, excuse me, coughing a lot today. Also, possibly the dragon Hualpa might be looking for some investment of his own or some help. We could do a lot of things with that. Let's see. In Asia, there's several big players in Asia. It's a big place. There's Imperial Japan. They have more mega corporations headquartered in Japan than any other country in the world. They have 3. That's Mitsuhama, Renraku, and Shiawase. All headquartered there. And there's a lot of cooperation between these 3 large corporations to kind of control the population and do what they want to do, basically. And the citizens of Japan are quite proud of their corporations and kind of their heritage, I suppose, with the corporations and what they can do with that. Also in Asia, Hong Kong, still independent, and it's described in the book as being extremely business friendly in sort of a old west gunfighter type of way. You can do great things there. You can rise to the top, and it can be awesome for you. But if you go down, you go down hard. So the corporations are always pushing to the extreme and always willing and able to hire whoever they can get a hold of to give themselves the edge, hopefully, to get them out on top. So it's a lot of activity going on in Hong Kong. You can do a lot of cool runs there. The headquarters of the corporation Wuxing, or Wuxing, is there in Hong Kong. The last big player in Asia is Russia. Russia, as we know it, has been chopped up into a lot of different countries, but there is still a section controlled by Russia that still connects kind of Europe with the Sea of Japan. Stretch there. The big city in Russia now is Vladivostok, which is the capital. The corporate headquarters of the Evo is in Vladivostok. It's a big medical center. In Europe, a lot of countries are still politically kind of running the same as they are currently. The UK, France, Spain, a lot of those countries, not much has changed. There's still a lot of strife in the Balkans. Not much change there. The Allied German states is the home of Krupp. It's the largest multinational corporation in the world. They're number one. They're from the kind of the sprawl of Essen is where they're headquartered. And the German states have been home to some of the worst ecological disasters of the century. There's still a lot of disasters, pollution, a lot of just corporate abuses, which have led to resistance. A lot of neo-anarchist activity and just megacorp resistance, particularly in the city of Berlin, but definitely in the German states. So there are a lot of sort of political, anti-corporate things going on in the Allied German states. Let's see, Africa. There's a lot of fighting, kind of infighting for territory and for resources in Africa. Egypt has grown sort of south and west, and it's in conflict with several other countries that are still trying to hold it back. In West Africa, there's a kingdom called Asmando, which is sounds very cool. It's controversial because it's the only country of ghouls in the world. I haven't read that part in the book yet. I don't know exactly what ghouls are, but it sounds really cool. So they're a leader for ghoul rights, but they're controversial because metahumans are regularly and deliberately fed to the populations of the country. So the world isn't particularly happy about that. So that's interesting. Kenya is home to the Kilimanjaro mass driver. It's a big promoter of space travel, kind of getting people into space. And there's a country called Azania that controls sort of South Africa. There's a lot of cultural division still going on in that part of the world, but there's a lot of industry coming into there, a lot of new young getting pumped into that area. Australia and Oceania has kind of gotten even weirder. Since the awakening, there's more crazy stuff been going on. Weird creatures. There are mana storms that sort of sweep across the Australian outback and kind of wreak havoc. So it's a dangerous place to travel and to be, but there's a lot of cool wildlife and just unknown things there. So sort of parazoologists and just interested parties looking to capitalize sort of on what might be out there are interested in going into that territory. The island of Tasmania, the book puts it, seems to have become a living organism. The animals and the plants attack and destroy anything that metahumans build on the island. So that's cool. The nation of New Guinea is also in kind of a political hotbed right now. Australia tried to annex it in 2064, but the Prime Minister of New Guinea resisted. He didn't want to be controlled by Australia. Shortly after that, he disappeared. And since then, New Guinea has been functioning as a part of the Republic of Australia. But there's been a large resistance movement growing lately. So there's a lot of sort of political Shadowruns can go on in New Guinea there. So just a lot of cool things going on in the world. It's neat to imagine the world as we know it and how it could change in the future. That's always a cool thing about a futuristic sort of setting. So that's kind of the basic intro I wanted to give. Shadowrun is definitely a very gritty setting. It's just cool. I'm really excited to play more of it. To see just the combinations of things you can do with interacting with magic, interacting with the things you can do to yourself and your body, and advantages you can give yourself in that way, and operating in the world of the Matrix, the internet. It's a lot of options. There's a lot of stuff in this book that I'm still trying to get through. In future videos, we'll talk more about building your characters, more about just combat rules in general, rules of movement, all that, all the mechanics, hopefully the things you need to get in there, make your guy, your runner, and get onto the streets and wreak some havoc. So I'm excited about this game. I've said that about 5 times now. Hopefully you're interested too. Hopefully this video helped you out decide if you were interested in Shadowrun at all. There is a free set of the basic rules that a lot of games are doing that you can get on the Shadowrun website. So if you wanna, there's even a quick encounter there you can run, just an adventure with some pre-gen characters. So you can just jump into the world and play a quick game. And there's videos on YouTube of some people playing that adventure. It's really cool. So I'll try and put a link to that in the doobly-doo below, and maybe any other interesting resources I find. So I blathered on long enough. So have some fun, and we'll talk to you later.